This is Fred Richani of the Sports Courier. I am joined today by a very special guest. He is one of the best wrestlers in the world, the self-proclaimed greatest man who ever lived, and the former TNA Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. He is here on the Sports Courier today for the very first time, Mr. Austin Aries. Sir, how are you today?
Good day. I'm doing well, thank you. It's still not quite warming up here in Clearwater as I'd hoped, but the sun's trying to peek itself out.
Yeah, it's pretty cold here in Jersey, so y'all are lucky. Now, your Green Bay Packers, they weren't so lucky, but for a team that didn't have their quarterback a lot of the season, they played pretty well. What do you think they got to do to rebound and get back to the promised land?
Yeah, tough season, had a lot of injuries, which obviously, a lot of teams deal with that, but they seem to get hit pretty hard. Obviously, you lose your franchise player is never easy, but I don't know. It's about developing the team. Ted Thompson, the general managers, had a system in place for a while. They like to draft and keep their own guys, which I think is fruitful. I think looking free agency might help. Maybe they can bring a player or two in from the outside that can maybe help change some things. But we'll see how they rebound next year. Through all the adversity, they still were in a good position to win. They came up short, and hopefully next year they'll take the next step.
Now, I've got a bit of a beef here. Genesis, TNA's free event on Spike TV, is this Thursday night. Your A-double is not booked. What have you got planned for Thursday night? Because I know you always like to make an impact, no pun intended.
I don't really know. I'll figure it out when I wake up Thursday morning. I'm gonna play it by ear, but I'll be there, and so if I'm there, hopefully I have some kind of impact. Pun absolutely intended.
And how cool are you with being in the X division the last few months? I know a lot of people have definitely been clamoring to see you back in the world title picture.
I'm competing for a championship. I mean, me and Chris Sabin have going back and forth with that. And, again, wherever I can fit in with the Impact roster, wherever I can be an asset, I'm happy to do it. Of course, I feel that I'm a guy who can carry the World Heavyweight Championship. I've done it before. I'd like to do it again. But right now I got my hands kind of full with Chris Sabin. He's kind of been a similar position I've been in within the company, and right now we're going at it, and maybe we'll both raise each other's game up to that level. And and as soon as I can maybe move beyond him, I'll start setting my sights on whoever's got the World Heavyweight Championship.
And you've had an incredible couple years with TNA. Now, a lot of people may not know this. You almost left the wrestling business, I believe, in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, just transitioning, thinking of other things to do with my life. Sometimes, they say sometimes if you're in something too close for too long, you have to take a step back to get a better perspective of it. So I just felt at that time that maybe taking a step back from wrestling and just focusing elsewhere was good for me on a personal level. But fate intervened, and TNA gave me a call and said, "Come on down for this X Division showcase we're doing. We're having basically a tournament sort to see who's going to get a contract." And I figured it was an opportunity I should definitely take advantage of, and I did.
Have you had a chance to kind of sit back and reflect on these last couple years with TNA? Because here you are, a guy that, one of the best wrestlers in the world for quite some time now. You almost stepped away from the business for good, came back, not only had a great X Division run, but won the world title when I think a lot of people didn't expect you to get a run, knocked it out of the park. I mean, have you really had a chance to sit back and say, wow, these last couple of years have been awesome?
Yeah, man. I mean, I live a mile from Clearwater Beach, so I get down there and I get to sit back and reflect a lot and just think about stuff. My brain's always motoring, so I'm always thinking, and I've definitely reflected on how grateful I am and what an opportunity that came in front of me at the right time in my life for me to take advantage of it. And I'm very thankful for that. And that being said, I'm not satisfied, and I have more things I want to accomplish within the wrestling world, outside of the wrestling world. But absolutely, it's always important for me. I'm a very passionate guy, and my emotions, sometimes can get the best of me. So it's important for me to step back and reflect and be thankful for everything that's in front of me right now.
Now, you mentioned outside of the ring. I know you're a long way from retiring, but is there another field you're looking into, perhaps acting or some type of entrepreneurship outside of the ring?
I mean, I think if you ask all those professional wrestlers, we all consider ourselves actors. You know, we're all entertainers. So I mean, if we can find ways to do that outside of the ring, I think we're all open to that. So that's something I'm always interested in pursuing. I've been with singing with the band down here for about 8 months now. We're kind of getting to that stage where we've got enough material to kind of really refine it and maybe start playing out some shows. Maybe get something out for general consumption. That's something that's really driving me too, as far as creatively, and a good outlet for me and my emotions and my thoughts and my feelings. And then my lifestyle, being a plant-based diet, following a vegan lifestyle, is something that I'm kind of interested in, getting in that fitness world and showing people that you can not consume animal products and still be healthy and fit and have muscles.
Would you say, is that the biggest misconception of being a vegan?
Yeah, I mean, I think they think it's all, some guy in some skinny jeans, picking at a salad or something, but it's not the case. There's when you really start doing digging on what we've put in front of us as far as our diet and what we think our diet's supposed to be, and you find out where that was basically taught to us by the people who've been teaching us and telling us that we need calcium, so we have to drink cow's milk, and we need meat, and you need red meat. And when you start digging it up and you start to realize the truths behind it, it's not a hard decision for me to make to abstain from those things. And even if it's not abstaining, severely cutting back our intake would do wonders for our health, for the health of the environment. And so many other things. So, the conception is that, you can't have muscles if you don't eat meat. Well, it's just not true. There's protein in lots of food sources. And at the end of the day, it's just about eating quality food. And if you feed your body enough quality food in excess of what you burn, then you'll build muscle if you're working out.
Is it tough for you to maintain that healthy lifestyle being on the road, especially with your workout regimen? I mean, you are in tremendous shape, but I would imagine it's probably taking you some time to develop a routine going from city to city.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a journey. I became vegetarian in 2000, so I mean, I've been learning for over a decade, and you never stop. It's difficult at times just because there's still a lack of awareness, I think, culturally in this country. So depending on where I am, some places can be a little tricky, but I've just kind of learned that I'm always prepared. I know I'm the guy outside the box right now, so. When I travel, I have everything I need with me. Always carry some bags of some lentils, pre-cooked lentils. They make really good, veggie protein powders, which is no different than, a lot of the guys carry stuff around. They're carrying around cans of tuna, packets of tuna, and whey protein. I'm carrying around lentils and plant protein. It's really no different. It's just being prepared.
Yeah, and with all due respect to TNA, they've definitely done a good job of, putting you over, making you a true top guy in the business, but you've been hustling outside of the ring too, courtesy of your publicist Mark. And I'm not just saying this because he's a buddy of mine. You've been all over the place, man. Why is it that you and guys like Christopher Daniels have smartened up and gotten somebody to help you out with your media commitments, as opposed to other guys in combat sports that feel like they can just do it alone?
Well, I think the important thing to remember is, and with all due respect to TNA, they have a large roster and they have a small group of people who are in charge of, public relations and things like that. And so it'd be nearly impossible for them to put the care and the time in that someone like Mark does for me. And that's why I've hired him to do that. I realize that right now I have the benefit of being on a very good platform in front of 1 million people every week on television. And while I love wrestling and I like to think I'm very good at it, there's other things that interest me too. And if I can use that platform and get my name out there and get myself out there in these other avenues, then I'm going to take advantage of that. And that's not TNA's job. That's my job for me. And that's kind of why, I've hired a guy to kind of get me out there. And of course, I'm always happy to help promote TNA because they're the platform that's allowing me to do this. But the focus that I'm doing is I've hired this guy to kind of help my brand. I don't want to call myself a brand, but help me get out there in the avenues that I want to pursue.
It seems like for as long as I can remember, you've always kind of had that star quality about you. Like, do you have that confidence every time you walk out there to the ring that not everybody has? How long did it take you to really develop that confidence? Was it when you started getting over into indies when you said, okay, if I could get over in front of 500 people, 5,000 people, I could get over in front of 50,000 people, or did it just come over time?
It comes over time, and you've never, and part of it's always kind of bullshit. I mean, to be honest, I think everyone like has confidence and has self-confidence, and issues with self-confidence, and it's a balance. And I think for me, the biggest step in like really walking up there, being 100% confident in what I do, is just being real and honest with, what I do and don't bring to the table. Be honest with my faults, be honest with my strengths. I feel if you're honest with yourself, you kind of take everyone else's bullets away to shoot you with. So when I walk out there, I'm comfortable in that situation. I've worked very hard for a long time. I put a lot of work into to get to that point, and I've been in front of all different crowds of all different sizes, of different nationalities, different languages, different concepts of what professional wrestling is, and I've learned what I've had to do to get over and entertain those people. And that's an experience, and I think that's something that's really undervalued in this profession. People think that they can train people inside a bubble or cookie cutter them out, and that they're going to go out there and know how to connect with people. And that's not something that you can learn in that environment necessarily, unless you're one of those special people who has it innately. A lot of those guys who have gone on to really be successful have done it the same way. We've gone up and down the roads and have had to do it and fail in front of different people, different times, to learn what to do to be successful. And I think that my second time around coming back to TNA, when I walked in there and it was just a one show deal, there was no promises. I was 100% confident in who I was and what I could go out there and accomplish. And I think people can connect to that because there's something that's authentic about it.
And do you think the talent level on the independent scene is still out there? I mean, granted, there's not as many opportunities for people as there used to be back in the days of ECW, WCW, WWE at its peak. But I mean, you came out of independence, obviously did pretty well for yourself. A guy like Daniel Bryan as well, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. I mean, are there guys out there who, I'm not saying they could be the next necessarily Austin Aries or Samoa Joe, but are there guys out there that you believe have that type of potential?
Yeah, there always will be. I mean, there's always guys who are gonna get it a little bit better than the rest, or have that special quality that maybe the rest of the heap doesn't quite have. Those guys will rise above, like a lot of the guys that you mentioned have. I think the concern I have, and when talking with some of my colleagues and stuff, is that there's kind of a generational gap. I mean, a lot of the guys you talked about, the CM Punks and Daniel Bryans, myself, Samoa Joes. Now that we're in our 30s and stuff, we maybe started watching wrestling in the early to mid 80s, and wrestling back then was different. And there's, I think, a gap between people who maybe started watching wrestling, say in the early 2000s, compared to that generation before. And I think there's some things that are kind of being lost in the art of the professional wrestling game as it's transitioned more to sports entertainment. And so I think it's important that some of us guys who kind of remember wrestling and remember all the things that made it great and all the things that made it work for all those years, continue to instill that as we're turning into the guys who are going to be training and teaching the next generation of guys. So, it's just important that there continues to be places for young guys to really go and learn the craft of professional wrestling and the history of it, and not just what it's been for the last 20 years.
Even as accomplished as you are, do you still find yourself learning new things along the way?
You hope so. If you're not, then you're getting dumber. I mean, you try to every time. I mean, that's part of the process. And I think when you get to a point where you realize that you know what you're doing, but you also know you're continuing to learn. That's kind of a magical point. And that's why it's cool. Being in a locker room. With where I'm at now with TNA, you have some guys and veterans who I can look to and go, hey, like, I can learn from these guys. These guys have gone and done things that I haven't done. And, sometimes, when you're, say, in a place like a Ring of Honor or work in the indie scenes, you're the guy that the young guys are looking to because they want to learn from you. And that's great, and I love that role. But I like being a guy who can also go and feel there's guys I can go learn from too, and pick their brains from their experiences. And so, yeah, you're always learning. You learn watching the new guys and things they do because they're bringing a whole different perspective and different ideas, and you'll see things from there. So, I'm just always kind of I'm a guy who analyzes things probably over and over and more than I should. But that's what helps me continue to grow and learn.
And would you recommend to every young guy to pretty much travel to Mexico, Japan, wherever they can to apply their craft when they have the opportunity?
It's just whatever makes sense. I've always told my students, you wrestle for, really one or two reasons. You're either doing it to make money, which is really the the essential goal at the end of the day is to make money. And if you're not making money, then it's because it's furthering your career in a way, which is also a form of payment, you know. And so, yeah, you're not going to want to keep driving someplace and not getting paid and not really getting an education from an experience standpoint. But yeah, I drove up to Canada, you know, real early the first, you know, year within the business. You know, I didn't make any money, but the experience of going up there, and they were doing a television tape, and it was, you know, some bigger name guys and shaking some hands. Like, you have to do those things. You have to get in the car and drive around, and yeah, if you have an opportunity to go somewhere internationally, go there. But don't keep going there if you're not either making money or getting something out of it from the learning standpoint. And I think that's important for a lot of guys, because they'll end up, you know, they'll be the best $20 guy in the area because they'll never go beyond that, and they'll continue to whore themselves out instead of, you know, saying I'm either making money or I'm getting something out of this, you know, for my career.
Now, we have a fan question here that relates to exactly what you're talking about, and I guess I'll pose this question to you. What's the biggest rookie mistake that you made or you saw somebody else make that any young wrestler should avoid at all costs?
Oh, man. I mean, there's a ton of them, and you know, one thing that's kind of tough for young guys, and I know I had this problem, and is understanding what your role is for the evening and what you're being asked to go out there and do. And you know, sometimes youthful exuberance, you'll go out there and you'll go above and above and above and above and beyond, and you think that that's great, and you're showing them how great you can be and everything you know. But that wasn't what you were supposed to do that evening. And all you're really showing the promoters that you didn't understand your job. And, you know, so the idea of less is more understanding your role and always leave them wanting more. Don't make them feel like you've given them everything you've got and there's nothing left to see. And I kind of equate it to baseball. If you're the leadoff hitter and you go up swinging for the fences and you go 1 for 5 with a solo home run, but your team loses 3-2, you didn't really do your job, because your job was to set the table and get on base for the rest of the team. And you see some guys go out there in a pre-show matchup or the first match of the night, and they go out there swinging for the fences, and they realize that if that was their job for the night, they would have put them in the cleanup spot.
That's definitely a great analogy. Now, I just remembered a couple weeks ago I interviewed your colleague Jay Bradley, who was very complimentary of you, and he told me a story of how you really showed your leadership skills. There was a time when, I guess, somebody bought some pizza for the boys in the locker room. And you guys were eating the pizza, and one nameless person decided to take a whole pizza for himself. So you were kind enough to empty out the pizza box in his locker and write, "Show some respect." Do you have a recollection of this story?
I do. I have a very clear recollection of this story. I can add a little more depth to it. Basically, it was someone coming in for for basically a tryout. You know, they were on a temporary. Say they were on a 10-day contract. As far as basketball references, we'll keep it sports related. They were in there getting a look. They were at the bottom of the rung. And boxes of pizzas were brought in for the talent, of course, because that's what every professional wrestler should eat before they take most of their clothes off and go out there and perform, is some pizza with lots of, you know, cow cheese. Anyway, I digress. But anyway, beyond that, there's a lot of pizzas there for everybody to eat. And, you know, most decent people will go grab a slice or maybe two of pizza, and this young guy or whatever decided that he just needed a whole pizza for himself. So he took the whole pizza and put it by his locker in the locker room. And as we kind of looked around, this guy got a whole pizza? So, I decided the first night I swapped his full pizza box out with an empty box and figured he'd probably get the hint. And apparently he did not get the hint. I think he thought it was like a joke, someone ate my pizza. And the next day repeated the same practice. But this time he hid his pizza box under his sweatshirt. It was more inconspicuous this way. And this time I felt for him to truly get the message, I swapped it out with another empty pizza box. And this time left him a little message. And to my knowledge, that was the last time he was with the company. I think he was told he wasn't going to make it that day, and he might have left crying, which for quite a big boy with a lot of muscles was kind of funny.
I guess there's definitely a lesson to be learned there. One lesson: respect the boys, respect the vets.
Just know your place. Yeah, know where you're at. And always just be respectful.
And don't piss off Austin Aries.
No, man. I'm always pissed off, so that won't work. Right.
Cool. Well, listen, man, we really appreciate the time. Do you have a little more time for a few fan questions?
Yeah, man, I got some time for some fan questions.
Very cool. All right, first one right here. How many capes do you own?
I used to own 3. I only own 2 right now. So when I decided to get a new cape and maybe put this one up for a public auction, it should fetch quite a pretty penny. Very
nice, very nice. Look out on eBay, kids. Terry Allen Jr. asks you, did you create the last Chancery submission?
Yes, I suppose I did. I guess it's kind of a variation of a Moodalock. It's just applied differently. It's the Moodalock really is about trapping the leg first, almost like a pull hold, and then bridging back and cranking on the chin. Mine's more of a front arm and head choke, latched in with a bridge over, which then also stretches out the neck and the back region. So yeah, it was something. I never like to say I invent anything because maybe somebody else had done it somewhere, but it wasn't something I saw anybody else do. It was something I kind of just came up with, and as I saw that it was getting a reaction from the people and from my opponents, I decided it was something I could actually start putting people away with.
All right, who is the hardest guy to get up for the brainbuster?
Joey Ryan.
Really?
I don't know. It's maybe something with the chest hair or the mustache. Maybe weighs. I don't know. It's got something in his boots. Maybe he's rocks. I don't know.
I would have thought you would have said one of those aces and eights guys. I remember I saw that brainbuster you did on one of the pay-per-views a couple years ago.
The mask guy, who ended up being Nux. Yeah. No, man. I don't know. I think just maybe center of gravity thing. He was actually pretty easy to hoist up there. But man, I remember almost throwing my back out when I gave it to Joey Ryan.
Wow. I gotta say, though, the brainbuster is definitely a perfect finish for you, especially being a little bit of a smaller guy compared to what people typically see as a main eventer. I really feel like that kind of, I don't know, made you really stand out. Like they're saying, oh, man, this guy can whoop some serious ass.
It was a move that I grew up enjoying seeing people use. Dick Murdoch and Tully Blanchard. Jimmy Garvin used one. Eddie Guerrero obviously had a really nice one too. As a guy with a little shorter stature, I have a strong base, a low center of gravity. So to get underneath guys like that and get them in that position, once you have good form and a strong base, it isn't too difficult for me.
All right, you're a guy that's wrestled a number of styles, Jay George says. What do you think about AAA's chances of succeeding in the U.S. With Lucha Libre and El Rey Network?
Hey man, I think right now, there could be a market for some new wrestling, and Lucha Libre is such a completely different style. They're gonna have a big fan base to pick from. The Latino American fan base is huge. It's a big part of the American culture now, and this will give them something to latch onto. And I hope it's successful. It just means more opportunities for everybody.
And do you think the WWE Network's going to hurt or help pro wrestling overall? Obviously, they're aiming it to help their own specific business, but with TNA being more of a TV product right now, do you think that's only going to help maybe drive more viewers who are going to be used to watching wrestling on free TV?
I don't see how it could be negative. I think it's more of an indication of the way television is going in general. It's starting to transition, and you see people are watching television as much as on their computers and through the internet as they are typical cable. So the medium's changing and transforming. I think WWE is just trying to stay ahead of the curve, and we'll see if time will tell how successful it is. But if anything, I think it's going to open up a lot more opportunities for other programming, other types of shows, other spin-offs. You got to understand a lot of professional wrestlers are talented guys outside of just a ring and a microphone, and this will give some opportunities to guys to kind of branch out and do some other things that will be entertaining and help build that, and again, just more opportunities for guys to make money.
Mike Rain asks, who is somebody you have not faced yet in your illustrious career that you would like to wrestle?
Oh, man, there's a long list, and I can never narrow it down to one. You can talk about guys I grew up watching who I'd have loved to get in the ring with. I always told Hulk, like, hey man, if you got one more in you, I'll make you look great. But no. I mean, man, I can't. I would have loved to gotten in there with Eddie Guerrero. I mean, had that opportunity, or even a team with him would have been awesome. I love tag wrestling. I think that's an art all in of itself and brings a whole different dynamic. Yeah, I don't even want to name one because I'd be leaving out 100 others. I always usually answer the question with whoever I'd be facing. I just want Bobby Heenan in my corner as my manager because then I'm doing all right.
Well said. Now, to follow up on your Hulk Hogan mention, for as much flack as Hulk may get for not putting over guys, whatever, that summer of 2012, he really put you over. I mean, I believe his exact words were, "You were the greatest thing I've ever seen, brother." What was that like to get that endorsement from Hulk Hogan on national TV?
Well, you take everything with a grain of salt or two with the Hulkster, But you know what? I've had a chance to get to know him a little bit and chat with him. And the one thing about Hulk is, man, he just really loves wrestling. I mean, he's dedicated his whole life to it. And but even at this point in his career, after everything he's done and everywhere he's been and things he's seen, he still watches. He watches as a fan, and that's pretty cool. I think to still have that part of wrestling in you after all that time. And yeah, I mean, your 7-year-old self is sitting there kind of going, really? Like Hulk Hogan's raising your arm and telling everybody how great you are. If I would have told my 7-year-old self that, he would have called bullshit. So, it was obviously, getting to work with guys like Hulk Hogan, getting to get in the ring and wrestle Sting. Those are some things that I'll always remember. And, Kurt Angle, another guy who, pleasure to get in there with, because it's just, Kurt Angle's still a guy. It's a test. You got to get in there and you got to bring your A game. Luckily for me, I got an A double game, so I was okay.
There you go. Eugene asks, do you think AJ Styles will return, and would you like to see him return since you two have some unfinished business?
I mean, from a wrestling standpoint, I'd love to have a guy like AJ Styles within the company to wrestle. I mean, I think the fans would too. I think there's, There was a tease of what could have been, but I don't think anybody saw the AJ Styles could do in there. On a personal level, I want AJ Styles to do whatever is best for him and his family, and if that's coming back to TNA, that'd be awesome. If that's working elsewhere, I completely understand that. And if that will happen, I have no idea. I guess we'll find out. That's what we all got to stay tuned and see what happens.
And I'll get you out of here on this, my friend. What's one piece of advice you could give to aspiring pro wrestlers? I'm sure they get to take out a lot of lessons from this interview, but what's one that you really want to leave them with before we go?
It's a marathon, not a sprint. That's always one I like to leave. And for every 10 guys who say he wants to do it, there's only one guy who really understands what it takes and is willing to do it. So understand that there's only so many spots, and this is one of the hardest industries to succeed in because there's so many factors at play. And be able to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, and that's probably going to be your best attack going forward.
Well said, Austin. I want to thank you so much for the time, man. Best of luck and everything.
You got it.
I'm sure
you'll. Next time I'll do this so I can actually see your face.
Yeah, I know. We'll work on that.
It's a little weird.
Well, I don't know if you actually would want to see my face, but that's okay. It's okay.
I heard Mark said you had a face for radio, so maybe it's better that way.
Okay. Thanks, man. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
There you have it. The great Austin Aries. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this exclusive interview with A-Double, the self-proclaimed greatest man who ever lived. If you're a first-time viewer of the Sports Courier, you could expect much more in-depth interviews where that came from. I just did that in-depth interview with Austin Aries. I got interviews with AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Jay Bradley, The Bromans, DDP, Booker T, Mick Foley, a ton of your favorite WWE, TNA, pro wrestling stars. So check it all out. And until next time, everybody, tweet us, Facebook us, do what you got.